Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everyone, my name is Jerry Ciolino. Today is February 21st, 2010, the third broadcast of the Jerry Ciolino Show. Today's subjects are the deceptive attempt of artificial sweetener Aspartame's #1 manufacturer IG Mono Group to change its name and market it as a natural sweetener. The attempted government takeover of the Internet through the Cybersecurity Act. But first, we got to talk about Glenn Beck. Now, most of you listening have probably heard of him. For those of you who haven't, Glenn Beck is a radio and TV talk show host who is, for all intents and purposes, an actor. He is a Rush Limbaugh and Ron Paul clothing, folks. He is a fraud. He gets on the air every day. He pretends to be on your side. He'll rail against the out-of-control deficit spending and the non-stop growth of government, and that he is a, quote, libertarian at heart. But after he gains your trust, he then turns around and advocates just the opposite. Now, many of you may wonder, why is Glenn Beck doing this? He's doing this because he's an operative of the establishment. There is a revolution going on in this country right now, right here and right now. This revolution has been dubbed by many as the Tea Party movement. The establishment sees this as a threat, and rightfully so, and they're trying to infiltrate it so they can control it, which they have done to a certain extent, and they have done with both major parties. Thus, they're using radio and TV personalities like Glenn Beck and some Republican politicians like Sarah Palin to co-opt this movement and transform it from a nonpartisan, anti-establishment, populist, constitutionalist movement against the abuses of government power into a far-right, hyper-partisan platform which will appear unappealing to the majority of the Americans and controllable by the establishment. Most of the original Tea Party supporters see right through this bait and switch, but unfortunately many others have been fooled. So this leaves me and others in the Patriot movement with no other choice but to expose Glenn Beck. So on this show today, I'm going to show clips of Glenn Beck, in his own words, betraying the movement, which unfortunately he has become the de facto leader of, first with a clip of him supporting the Wall Street bailout.
Well, welcome to The Real Story. I told you at the top of the program today that our country is in real trouble. It's like a plane flying around with half of its engines on fire and you can't put them out. No matter which way you slice it, we are now in for a hard landing. Our pilot's job now is just keep that plane from falling out of the sky and killing everybody on board. To put it another way, we are in the middle of an all-out financial emergency, and emergencies have a way of really testing people in normal times, under normal circumstances. If you tune in to me, you know me as somebody who would tell the federal government exactly where to take their bailout plans and shove it right up there, you know what. But these are anything but normal times. I thought about it an awful lot this weekend, and while it takes everything in me to say this, I think the bailout is the right thing to do. The real story is the $700 billion that you're hearing about now is not only, I believe, necessary, it is also not nearly enough, and all of the weasels in Washington know it. You think about this crisis again like an airplane, okay? We could have stopped this whole thing when the plane was sitting at the gate, and we were saying, don't load this thing up with easy money and McMansions for anybody who wants them. You can't take off in this plane. It's unsafe. Nobody listened. You could have turned it around when the plane was taxiing down the runway and we were still screaming, don't take off. We could have even turned it around just after takeoff. Now the plane, however, is over open ocean, has engine trouble. Who would have seen this one coming? Well, now we're stuck in a position where we let that plane fall out of the sky, or we do our best to try to have some sort of a controlled crash landing that saves lives and let us salvage what we can. I mean, there are
Okay, so not only does Glenn Beck resort to the usual economic doomsday fear-mongering arguments via a half-baked analogy about how we're all on a plane ready to crash. Oh my God, we're all going to die. Batten down the hatches. It's Armageddon, everybody. He even said that the $700 billion was not nearly enough, while conveniently ignoring the numerous secret bailouts of the big banks by the Federal Reserve and the Treasury Department, which places the actual number as closer to $28 trillion. That's right, folks. We're getting robbed even harder than we think we are, and then resorts to blatant hypocrisy by saying how those responsible, quote, damn well better be held accountable when he knows he just advocated the surest way to prevent any accountability whatsoever. Now, Glenn Beck realized he was caught with his proverbial pants down and resorted to this pathetic attempt to salvage what dignity he had left. I will indeed play for you now.
You know, I want to play something for you that I think most people would think that I would hide, but I'm an honest guy. I'm not going to hide this. I want you to know why I said it, when I said it, and what happened. I was actually for the TARP fund for about 2 days. I want you to hear the audio. Here is what I said. I'm actually for this bailout. This is not designed to stop it. It is designed to slow down the crash, because we are crashing. Now, the question is, do we crash into the side of a mountain, or do we crash in a forest? We ain't making it to the runway. Okay. I said that for about 2 days. I supported it for about 2 days. I think it was about Wednesday of that week. I figured out that the Bush administration and Congress were not being honest with us, and I reversed myself. I said, do not let them pass this. You see, because I thought slamming the plane into the side of a mountain, we're all dead. Bring it down into the trees. Just hold it together long enough to warn people. What do? Stop the madness. You know, go for a temporary fix to help people become responsible, to warn them, to tell them to live within your means. Get your family and your neighbors into a lifeboat. But I realized 2 days into it, that's not what they're going to do. They have squandered this opportunity, and we are once again headed towards the side of a mountain. Washington, stop spending money. Stop with the new programs. Stop cap and trade. Bring our soldiers home, or...
And he honestly expects people to believe that he changed his mind on an issue as huge as this in 2 days. Oh, yeah, sure. You're an honest man, all right, Mr. Becky boy. Well, anyway, here's Glenn Beck calling for new taxes on the Bill O'Reilly Show, also known as the Loofah Power Hour.
Thanks for staying with us. And Bill O'Reilly in the At Your Beck and Call segment tonight. A shocking development. Fox News commentator Glenn Beck, chosen by Barbara Walters as one of the most fascinating people of 2009. We are not kidding. With us, Mr. Fascination himself, Glenn Beck.
What's not fascinating? What's not fascinating with me, about me?
We'll get to that in a moment. And it's a travesty of a mockery of a sham, as Woody Allen once said.
It shows how troubled television is.
But I want to ask you a serious question. Yes. Last night, I know you watched Factor every night,
yes,
so you can steal material.
Oh, my God.
And I said that economically, we can bring the country back, but you have to do some discipline. You have to freeze spending.
Yep.
You have to have a national sales tax, 2%. Yep. What did you think about that?
Folks, I don't know about you, but I can barely even hear that one myself. I don't know why the volume is so quiet on that one. I guess I'll turn up the volume a bit and
thanks
see if I can hear
and
it better.
Bill O'Reilly in the At Your Beck and Call segment tonight. A shocking development. Fox News commentator Glenn Beck, chosen by Barbara Walters as one of the most fascinating people of 2009. We are not kidding. With us, Mr. Fascination himself, Glenn Beck.
What's not fascinating? What's not fascinating with me, about me?
We'll get to that in a moment. And it's a travesty of a mockery of a sham, as Woody Allen once said.
It shows how troubled television is.
But I want to ask you a serious question. Yes. Last night, I know you watched Factor every night,
yes,
so you can steal material.
Oh, my God.
And I said that economically, we can bring the country back, but you have to do some discipline. You have to freeze spending.
Yep.
You have to have a national sales tax, 2%. Yep. What did you think about that?
I made some notes.
Excellent.
I actually agree with you, except I believe it should be a VAT tax
2% VAT.
Value-added
No
tax.
no more than 2%.
What's the difference between a sales tax and a value-added tax?
Value-added tax goes through, or value-added tax goes through absolutely everything. So it hits 2% on every piece. You make a car, somebody's making the radio, 2%. Somebody's making